I love video games, and I also like spooky stuff too. But there's one little problem. I have no clue how to make games. So join me in this deep soul-finding journey where I slowly realize just how stupid I am and how I seriously underestimated an entire industry. When it came to picking engines, I watched a lot of videos, and I mean a lot of videos. Now, I have used Godot before, but I really wanted to have a good attempt at making a game in Unity, because a lot of my favorite YouTubers use Unity a lot, and I thought it would just be a good place to start. So this journey starts where most journeys start. A search on Google, and eventually following a tutorial. So after I got Unity downloaded, I decided, let me make a really quick, easy to play game that just teaches me the very basics of the engine, considering I have no clue what I'm doing here. And as you can see, I'm pretty happy by what I've achieved so far. But then I quickly realized how I needed to have an action plan. Because as an old wise man once said, people need plans, but I'm really lazy. So I decided it was probably just a good idea for me to write down a rough timeline of what actually happens in the game. And so as you can see, I was coming up with an idea of the main character getting kidnapped while driving home after work, and how this would play out was your car gets an engine failure, you see a figure and then you hear a sound, then all of a sudden it goes dark because you get knocked out, and then you wake up in a basement and you have to try and escape. Pretty simple when I say it out loud, but trust me, it was not simple at all. Also, I actually needed to keep it simple, because 1, I have no clue what I'm about to do over here, and 2, I suck at coding. So then, it was time to get to work. I made a checklist and ticked off everything I'd done, but when I wrote everything down on the paper, it quickly became clear that there was a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. Reality really set in when I spent an entire hour just making a player, a ground with a green material on it, and just a player with the ability to move and a camera attached to that player. In essence, it took me 1 hour to make a player that can move. Yeah, sounds crazy, but it's true. This made me quite nervous because I was thinking to myself, I want to do so many things in this engine, but it took me an hour just to make the player move. What's gonna happen? But, you know, I persevered and I realized that I just needed to keep moving forward because the time was ticking and it was ticking fast. So the next day, I just tested making a scene using prefabs. Now, there wasn't really much guidance on YouTube about how to make levels and scenes, and most of the people use this thing called Pro Builder, but for some reason, I didn't feel like learning Pro Builder. I tried to use a shortcut, but as you guys will see, it ended up costing me a lot. An entire day was wasted trying to learn how to use a prefab that I just ended up scrapping completely. So, you know how I said I spent an hour working on the player controller? Well, that's wrong. I actually spent an hour and 30 minutes. You see, I wasn't really satisfied with what I had initially. So I went in, added a jump function, and I also added a way for the player to sprint. And in the end, I actually came up with something I'm really happy with. I didn't even know how to code before this. And somehow, following my main man Brackies, I was able to come up with this. Now, I didn't copy his tutorial word for word because I felt like I wouldn't learn as much, and I think that was a good thing because I made a lot of mistakes. But you know what they say, can't learn without making a few mistakes. So my next big idea was to use the terrain tool in order to make a terrain. After watching a tutorial, I quickly realized this was the fastest way to get level up and running, and that's exactly what I did. It was at this point where I really felt like I could make my game come to life. Just seeing all the trees, the mountains, everything I had crafted with my own hands. Oh, I did it. It was really fulfilling. I was happy. Once I got my player in there, started moving him around, It was like I was actually creating something. So then I loaded in a prefab of the car after the wreckage. Then I decided to make a flashlight script. This flashlight script didn't take too long to figure out, and I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I did it all by myself, no tutorial needed. One thing I really wanted to learn how to do was 3D model by myself. So I searched up a few tutorials and I actually managed to make my very first flashlight model. It wasn't anything too complicated or complex, but I was just happy to be able to see something go from Blender to Unity instantly. And it was all my own work, 100% original. So seeing my game with the flashlight and the terrain with the skybox, it felt like everything was finally coming together. Everything that I worked hard for in the past 3 days. This game was gonna be something I was very proud of, or so I thought. You see, this isn't a tale with a happy ending. This is a tragedy. Somehow, in some way, I messed up the shaders for my project. And no matter how much I searched, how much I scoured the internet, I looked in every nook and cranny, every forbidden forum, and I still couldn't find an answer. I had lost everything. The only thing that I could salvage was the player script and the flashlight. I'm not gonna lie guys, this was really depressing. I lost all hopium. I didn't know what to do from here, to be honest. I thought I would just scrap the entire video, but as you can see by the timeline, this isn't the end of the video. Nah. I'd given up on many projects before this. None of them had made it to YouTube, and I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna do this for 7 days no matter what the outcome is. And with the timer ticking, it was time I actually got to work. I know there's not a lot of time left, but I figured I might as well make the most of it. So I got to work. You know how before I was talking about not using Pro Builder? Well, now I thought it was kinda necessary. So after watching a quick Brackeys video, I managed to somehow get an entire level up and running. So then I plopped my character right in the center of it all and started messing around with colliders and trying to figure out how to use materials. Well, I couldn't really use materials, so in the end I kinda gave up on that, but my next step was to create the creature. Okay, time was running out really fast now. There's no time to create the creature. We need to just see if there's a really fast solution. Mixamo. Yeah, let's use this. You know, looking back at this, it wasn't really planned out very well, but I just had to make do with what I had. So, using Mixamo, I used this Freddy Krueger model and tried to implement some sort of animations, but before I knew it, the timer ran out. The essence of this video is that game developing is a skill that takes a lot of knowledge and a lot of time to build that knowledge. And for a 16-year-old dude like me, who barely knows his way around simple coding techniques, it's a bit of an insurmountable task, to say the least. So here's what I want you to do. Comment an idea for 3 simple projects in 3D. Doesn't matter what genre, I just want to be inspired by you guys. And I'll try and make them happen in the form of a video each. And if you guys enjoyed this, consider subscribing, because that motivates me to strive to do my best with every video that I release. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.